So that's how we can add some simple text or titles and customize it. But this is simple text. So let's also look at some more text or title options. So for now, let's delete it. Now let's play around with the scrolling titles. So I'll just drag and drop them to the beginning. And right now this is left aligned. So to customize that, I can select it, have the inspector panel enabled, and now I can further customize it. Joshua tree. Give it a different font. Have it center aligned. And let's increase the, no, this is a little too big. So this is fine. I can change the alignment. I can change the anchor it to one of these edges or to the center. Then I can change its color. So this looks good. Okay. Further add some drop shadow if you need to. Let's add some black drop shadow. Position. I don't think we need any drop shadow. We can add some background. Increase the width and increase the height. Change its position. Opacity. So all the different text customization tools that we studied before, that we looked at before. And let's disable the inspector menu. Okay, so this window won't be moving with the scroll. So let's delete that window. Background, we don't need any background. So now when I move this cursor across, move this playhead across, you will see that the scrolling text basically starts from the bottom and scrolls all the way to the top. And the width of this window, it basically maps into the duration, how long it takes to scroll from the bottom all the way to the top. So if I want to make it quick scroll, I will decrease the length across this timeline, and now it will take shorter to scroll. But if I want to have it scroll slower, I will further expand it so that it takes more time to travel from the start to the end. And now if you play it, now it will take a longer time. So that's how we can add some scrolling titles. Lastly, we have these lower thirds, the left lower third, middle lower third, and right lower third. And to explore them, let me get rid of this scroll. So let's add a lower third. And this is basically composed of two titles, a main title and a subtitle hooked to each other. And if I select and go to the inspector menu here, I can customize these main title and the subtitle. Joshua tree. Times New Roman is fine. Let's change the color to this color, and let's change the brightness a little bit. Increase the size. Let's change the subtitle, a day trip. Color. Change the brightness. Size. No. And of course, this is the left lower third, so it will stay on the left. If we want to bring it to the middle, we need to select this medium lower third option. And if you want to have it on the right, we need to pick this right lower third option. So if I delete it and if I bring a right lower third, you will see that these titles are hooked to the right edge. And we can further go to the inspector menu and customize both these title and the subtitle, change all these properties as before. And so all these lower thirds are exactly the same except for their orientation. This is oriented to the left side, to the middle, and to the right. So that's how you can add simple text, scrolling text, and lower thirds to your videos in Davinci Resolve. I hope that was useful, and I'll see you in the next lesson. Another thing that is kind of weird and doesn't make much sense is that we have video options for the text and title, and this sometimes confuses people. So let's go over that. So here is a title I have added, and if we select the title and go to the inspector panel, here you will see that there are two tabs, the text and the video. So let's go to the video tab, and here we have composite, transform, and cropping. So we'll go over composite in another lesson, but let's look at some of the other text effects. So first, let's try to zoom this text with time. So for that, I will bring this playhead to the start where we want to start zooming. And you can see here under the transform, the first option is zoom. So these are the different keyframes for different effects. And I want to zoom it with time, so I need a zooming keyframe. So let me turn this zooming keyframe on. This is the initial value for zoom at this point. And if I bring it to the end, and here if I increase the zoom value, now basically it would start zooming at this point, and at this point the zooming value should be this. And this is a zooming animation. So if I bring my playhead here, this is the initial value of zoom, and as time passes by it starts zooming. So that's how we can implement a zooming animation. And if you want to see the details of the keyframe in timeline, what you can do is look for this particular icon. So this is the icon for keyframe. And here you can see that on other clips, there is no icon like this. That means keyframes have been applied only on this clip, not on the other clips. So if I click this, here another bar comes up where the details of the this particular keyframe are mentioned. So this is basically showing that there is a transform keyframe, and particularly this is a zooming keyframe. And if I further click this arrow, it shows me details that this is of transform kind, but more specifically it's zooming in the X and Y direction with time. So these details basically tell what this particular keyframe is doing. And I can further click this arrow to hide that. This is the dot. We can move it around to change the properties of this particular keyframe. So this keyframe icon shows up at the right of the clip where keyframes have been applied. We just created a zooming animation, but let's also create a moving title animation on top of that. So let's say for this particular example, we want to start it from this particular position, and with time it should move to the right. So for that, I will bring this playhead to the start, and we will make use of this position keyframe. So I'll decrease this X value so that it's where we want it to start. And I will click this keyframe. So now a position keyframe has been generated. So what this keyframe is going to tell Davinci is that when this playhead is at this particular point in time, these are the position parameters this title must be at. So at this particular time, this must be the location for this title. But the rest of the keyframe has no other position keyframe yet. So it's just gonna stay at the same position unless we define more keyframes. Now I bring this playhead to the end of this title clip and change the position to the destination point that I wanted to move to. So let's say I wanted to move to this particular position. And because the keyframe thing is still enabled, it's going to record the path I told it to follow. And if I bring this playhead to the start and move it, you can see that it's both zooming and moving. See the zooming effect as well as the movement. And if I click on this keyframe icon and click on this arrow as well, now it is telling me what it's doing. It is zooming in X and Y direction, and it's also changing its position. So these are the different effects this keyframe is implementing. But let's not mix the movement and zooming with each other. So what I can do is I can go to the video and text is selected, so I can reset this position value, and now it will be just moving, it won't be zooming. See, as I move this playhead, the zooming value is not changing, but the position value is. We can layer a couple more things on top of this movement. Let's say we want it to move, but we want it to disappear in the end. So in order to implement this disappearing effect, we can make use of this opacity keyframe. So maybe what we can do is when this playhead is somewhere in the middle of this clip, we can turn on the opacity keyframe. So right now its opacity value is 100. So that means it's totally visible, and we can bring this playhead to the end and reduce this opacity to 0. So congratulations, we just layered movement and opacity. And if I move this playhead, it is moving and it's also gradually fading instead of disappearing suddenly. And if we wanted to, we could have it start from a different point and move to a different destination point, and we could also make it last longer or shorter. So that's how these keyframes work, and that's how we can exploit them to implement some very interesting effects on the text or titles. And we can further click on this black and white diamond to hide this keyframe menu. I hope you learned some useful techniques in this lesson, and I'll see you in the next lesson. Hi and welcome to another lesson. Now let's try to create some interesting text effects using the composite mode. And composite means how one layer interacts with the overlapping layers. For this particular example, we have this title and we have this video clip, and let's mix both of them. So what I do is I select this video, bring it on top of the text, and if I bring my playhead here, this completely hides the text or title underneath. Now what I can do is if I select this upper video clip and go to the inspector, here in its composite mode, right now by default it is set to normal. But if I select add, now the underlying title becomes visible. But let's take it to the next level. So instead of add as the composite mode, if I go ahead and select multiply, that's what you get. And if I move the playhead, you can see that the video is shining through this particular text stencil. This basically creates a text mask, and video is shining through that text mask. This is an awesome text mask that you can get using the composite mode. That's it for this lesson. I'll see you in the next one. Hi, in this lesson, we will look at the overall interface of the Deliver workspace. So let's say you are done with selecting all the clips, putting them in a required sequence, and applying all the edits, and now you are ready to deliver your project. So what you can do is go to the last workspace, which is the deliver workspace. So this is what it looks like, and let me walk you through different sections of this workspace. So at the top you have different render settings. You can render for YouTube in different resolutions. You can render for Vimeo, or there are other render presets. Then these are the settings. Right now we have the custom render settings selected. So in this section we can define what settings we want for our render. Then we have the clips that are going to be included in the render. So right now we have these 3 clips in our timeline, and all of them are included in the render sequence by default. And this is the preview, so I can preview any of these clips. And down here is the timeline with all the edits applied in the previous steps. Okay, so this is where all edits can be seen. This is where you have all the clips. Their preview can be seen here. This is where you can define the render settings. And this is where, after you add something to the render queue, this is where you will see that job created. And this is the button to start rendering your project. So this is the overall layout for the deliver workspace. And in the next lesson, we will look at the actual render settings that we can use to deliver a project. So I'll see you in the next lesson. Hi. In the previous lesson, we looked at the overall interface of the deliver workspace. And now let's look at the actual render settings and render this sequence actually. On the top here, you have different render presets, but we don't want to go for any predefined presets, but we just want to go for a custom render. So the custom option is selected, and we can give it a file name. We can select a location where we want to save it. So I can select it and choose desktop. And here we can render this sequence to individual clips. So right now I have 3 clips in my sequence, so I can render each of these clips to their individual videos, or I can just put everything into a single clip. Of course, we want to put all of them together into a single video. So I will pick this single clip option. Of course, we don't want an audio, we just want a video file. Then for the video, here are different options. So we can choose different formats, MP4, QuickTime, TIFF, or any other format, but I'll go with QuickTime. Then codec, we have different kinds of codecs. So we can choose H.264, Apple ProRes. So we can go with H.264. Then resolution, we have different options. We can choose 720p, we can choose 1080p, or even 4K. Frame rate, any of these is fine. Then quality, you can select automatic quality, or you can restrict it to a certain kilobyte per second rate, but automatic is fine for most purposes. Passes, how many passes you need to go through. So single is fine. Keyframes, automatic, that's okay. Then advanced settings, pixel aspect ratio, mostly I would go with the square one. So for most of these options, I think auto is fine. And there are no subtitles. So these are all the different settings we can choose or we can customize for the video. And lastly, we have this add to render queue button. So these are the clips that are going to be added to the render queue. So right now you see there is no job in the queue. No render job is being processed or has been put in the queue. But when we press this add to render queue, now you can see that this job has been added to the render queue, also showing the address where the rendered video would be saved. So I can press this button to start render. So I can choose overwrite the existing file. And here it shows the progress in percentage. So 5% is done and 1 minute and 32 seconds remaining. So I'll just stop it there because I want to actually render it. So that's how you customize the render settings in Davinci Resolve, and that's how you actually render a video. I hope that was useful, and I will see you in the next lesson. In this lesson, I will show you how to put together the travel montage that you just saw in the previous lesson. So these are some short video clips I have provided in the course resources, and let's edit them together to turn them into a sequence for that travel montage. So first of all, I will navigate to these clips on my computer and add all of them . 1 through 14 to my media pool, and I'll say yes to that. And I'll also go ahead to add some music. Yes, this is the music, and some pictures. So I think this picture and another picture of the Joshua Tree National Park. And all of these clips and pictures and the music is provided in the course resources. This is the media workspace. So now that we have added media to the media pool, let's go to the edit workspace, close the effects library, go to the media pool, and here you will see all the media that we just added. And you can see that right now these clips have been shown randomly. So let's go to this button and sort them by their file names. And now they are in sequence. And also you can see that the timeline is empty yet. Now I will select all of these clips first. Add them to the timeline. And you can see that the timeline is created with one audio and one video track. And all of these clips are in sequence. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. And you can also see that this timeline thumbnail was also created when I placed them into the timeline. So let's double click that to rename this timeline. Let's say travel montage. And let's also go ahead to save this project as, save project as, and let's rename it travel montage. Save. So now later on, whenever I want to save it, I'll just press Command S on Mac operating system and Control S on Windows operating system to save it. So this is all the media that we are going to use, plus one picture at the start and one picture at the end. So let's select this. This is the one I want to place at the start. So let's go to the insert option to insert it in the beginning. This is the end, so let's insert this one in the end. And now you can see that the length of our timeline from start to finish, it is around 1 minute and 58 seconds. But we'll try to keep the final video under 1 minute. So we will need to do some trimming as well. Now one side note here. When you add media to the media pool and try to play it from the edit tab, chances are that you might face some laggy video playing here. Right? You see these frame rates, these are not staying at the same value, these are fluctuating. So what this means is that the media has not been optimized to play on your computer yet. So to fix that, what you can do is go to the top menu, playback. There is an option called render cache, and under that, by default, it is selected none. So what you need to do is you need to pick this option smart. And as soon as you do, you will see that a red line appears on top of your timeline. Okay, so it looks like this. And initially all of it would be red. Okay, so red means these portions have not been optimized for playback yet, but some portions of this line would slowly start turning blue. As you can see, this has turned blue. So blue means it has been optimized to playback, but red means it hasn't been optimized yet. So give it some time until all of this line turns blue from red. And when all of it has turned blue, you can play and hopefully you won't see any lags anymore. Even if some portions are still red, you can play the portions which are blue, and in those portions you hopefully won't see any lags. See, right now the frame rate stays the same at the full value. But as soon as it will start playing this region, you will see some lags here. See? So just let it sit there for a few minutes, and hopefully all of that will turn blue very soon. Moreover, you will see that there are a lot of jump cuts at all these video transitions. See? So we will apply some video transitions to make these jump cuts smoother. And also you will notice that some of these clips are a bit shaky because these were just shot without tripods. So there is some shakiness going on. So we will fix them with stabilization in the end of this lesson. And before starting, let me give you the big picture of what we are going to do in this project. These clips are numbered from 1 through 14. You see it starts from clip number 1 and it goes all the way to clip number 14. So these clips were basically taken in the chronological order. That means the first clip is about start of the day at Joshua Tree National Park. Then the activities done there during the day in a sequence, like photography, climbing, etc. And the last few clips are about the day coming to an end with the sunset in the very last clip. We will put one picture of the park at the start and one picture at the end, and we'll also add some background music to that. And we will sync these video transitions to the beat of the music and add some titles to that so that we can practice all the editing tools we have learned so far in this course. And since we will be syncing these video transitions to the beat of the music, so let's try to add some background music. Let's bring it up so that we can see this track. And right now you can see that no waveforms are showing up. So what I can do is I can go to the timeline view options and here turn this audio waveform on. And now you can see the waveform for the background music. And you can also see that this line has all turned blue. See, I just gave it a few minutes and all of that turned from red to blue. So now all of it has been optimized to playback. And you can see that these clips have some audio also. Not any meaningful audio, but just some random sounds of camera clicking here and there. So basically we don't want any sound from these clips. We just want the background music. So what I can do is I can right click on this track containing the audio for these clips and delete that track. So now the only audio we have is the background music. And now if you see, the length of this music track is too much for our travel montage. So what I can do is I will trim the extra portion of the music. So I will zoom in. So to zoom in and out of this timeline using your mouse wheel, what you can do is on Mac operating system, you can press Option and move your mouse wheel. Or if you're using Windows, you can press Alt and move your mouse wheel. And in this way, you can zoom in and out very easily. So I need to trim this portion of the music. And right now you can see that the selection mode is enabled. So I want to go to the blade or the razor edit mode and the shortcut is B. So I can just either press this or press B on my keyboard and automatically it is enabled. And now I can just bring it to the top of to the alignment of the end of these video clips. And here I can press Command B to insert a cut. Command B on Mac operating system or Control B on Windows. Now I can again go back to the selection mode by pressing A. Click on this to select it and press delete to get rid of that. So now we have enough music to cover the length of these video tracks, but also remember that right now it is around 2 minutes and we will need to trim it to under 1 minute. So we will need to add the unneeded portion of music again later on. So again, zoom in on the timeline. And here you see these are the original lengths of all these video clips. And we will need to do some trimming on those as well. So let's start some editing. Now remember that we need to do some trimming on these clips. So let's trim them a little bit from the edges and later on we can further fine tune that. So one way to trim these from the edges is using again the razor edit mode. So I'll press B to enable this razor edit mode. And let's try to trim these clips a little bit from the edges. So the first way is using the razor edit mode. And I'll just bring it here, press Command B on Mac or Control B on Windows and insert it. Now I can press A for the selection mode, click it, and now I need to get rid of this portion. So what I can do is I can press delete on Mac operating system or backspace on Windows and that portion has been deleted, but you will see that the gap is still there. Okay, so by pressing the backspace on Windows or delete on Mac operating system, you can just get rid of the clip, the selected clip, but the gap would still be there. But if you want to delete the clip as well as the gap, what you can do is, let me undo that to bring it back. And now I want to get rid of this clip as well as this gap that will be created when it's gone. So to do that, I'll select it, and on Mac operating system, I can press Shift Delete, or on Windows, press Delete button. And you can see that that clip is gone, and also it took away with it the gap that was to be created here. So now the gap has already been taken care of. Now I will trim these clips to parts we need to tell the story, and later on I will further tweak these trims to sync them with the music. So we can keep using the razor edit mode, insert some cuts, go to the selection mode, press Shift Delete on Mac operating system, or simple delete button on the Windows operating system, and the clip and the gaps are also gone. But another way to trim that could be with the selection mode, and you can just bring your cursor to the edge of a clip until you see this kind of cursor, and now you can just drag it inside, but this results in a gap. Similarly, I can trim this from the edge, trim that from the edge also, but you see that this is creating some gaps. So the way to get rid of those gaps is by pressing them, and now you can see that this gap has been selected, and simply pressing Delete button, and that gap would be removed. Similarly, I can select this gap, press the Delete button, and that gap is removed. But I think the best way to trim these and also take care of the resultant gaps at the same time is using this trim edit mode. So I select that, and let's try to trim these clips using the trim edit mode. And the way to do that again is to bring your cursor to the edge of the clip until you see this kind of cursor. And now when you trim those, everything will be slipping with that. So the gaps would be taken care of at the same time. So in this way, I can trim those clips a little bit. This is not the final trimming. This is just to bring them within 1 minute. And later on, we are going to sync these transitions to the beat of the music. So in this way, I can do trimming on all these clips to make them shorter. And not only trimming, we'll also need to pick the right portion of the original video that goes well with the background music and the theme of our overall travel montage. So looks like we are still at around 1 minute and 22 seconds or so, but we'll take care of that as we go along. So again, let me go to the razor edit mode by pressing B, bring my cursor here, press Ctrl B on Windows or Command B on Mac operating system to insert a split here. Press A for the selection mode, select it and press delete. Okay, and also I can, you can see if I play it. So right now the music is kind of starting abruptly, and we can pick this notch and move it inside to have some nice fade in effect for this music. So now I think this would be some nice fade in effect. Okay, that is better. Now I think I'm gonna stop right here to end this lesson, and we'll continue working on this in the next lesson.